Have you guys heard the news? The arena shooter is dead! Every time I hear that bogus claim, the crabby old boomer in me metaphorically shakes his fist at the computer screen. I mean, sure, the player population for the arena FPS genre has dwindled down to smaller numbers throughout the years, and younger gamers don't flock to the genre like us older ones do. No one should be denying that. But to call an entire genre of games dead just because it's no longer the mainstream focus of AAA studios is an uninspired and lazy take. On this channel, instead of trying to bait clicks with hot button topics or arguing who is right and who is wrong, I highlight communities that are not just alive, but thriving. After all, in my opinion, showing, not telling, is a better way to unequivocally prove that the arena FPS genre is still kicking ass with modding, mapping, competitive scenes, open source communities, active discords, and more. In my last two videos on the topic, I showed off games with active communities on and off of Steam that have populated servers and busy discords. And if you haven't seen those, you might want to watch those before this video. Links are in the video description. Many of you commented on those videos about other communities still out there keeping the dream alive, and I'm going to highlight as many of those as I can in this follow-up video. So buckle up, as this video might be kind of a longer one. In order to cover as many games as I possibly can in a relatively organized fashion, I'm going to break this video into 3 sections. First, I'll talk about more arena FPS games not on Steam. After that, we'll go back to Steam and talk about more games that you can play on that platform. And then finally, we'll talk about some other games that are not necessarily arena shooters, but they share similar roots, and therefore I feel they deserve honorable mentions. And please, let it be known that if I've already mentioned a game in one of my other 2 videos, I am not going to include it in this one. It is also impossible to list every game out there in these videos, but I will do my best to highlight as many as I can within reason. However, if you feel that I missed a critical arena FPS community, please let me know in the comments so I can add it in future videos. And lastly, one final disclaimer. I have not personally played or investigated every single one of these communities I'm going to talk about. I am assuming that they're all active, but I cannot guarantee that they will be as active as you may want them to be, as some of them are indeed small and niche. I will also include applicable Discord invites and websites in the video description. Alright, with that said, let's get to it. Here are 5 more arena FPS games for you that are not on Steam, but could still be worth checking out. First up, we have Diabotical. After Quake Champions, I would say that Diabotical is the most mainstream arena FPS game released in the last few years. Created by Swedish team GD Studio, led by former esports personality 2GD, the game launched for free on the Epic Games Store in 2020. While Diabotical had a large reception early on, the numbers have definitely dwindled over time. However, people are still playing it, as the game just completed its 4th Wipeout League season earlier this year. Next up is Open Arena. On August 19th, 2005, just one day after the id Tech 3 source code was released, the Open Arena project was established. Open Arena is an open source arena FPS that many have called a clone of Quake 3 Arena. However, it offers more game modes than base Quake 3 and some other quality of life improvements, such as getting credit for a kill if you knock somebody off of a map. And yes, I do know that this game is still being played, so go to their website, link in the description, and check it out. In the last video, we talked about Unreal Tournament 99 still alive and kicking. Well, it turns out Unreal Tournament 2004 is still alive and kicking as well. A series that should need no introduction, Epic Games abandoned this once flagship franchise back in January, shutting down all online services for the Unreal games.
I've abandoned my boy!
However, the community has bypassed this shutdown, and you can still play UT2K4 today on populated servers. If you visit UT2004serverlist.com, there's a guide there on how to get back online, as well as a list of servers where you can play and a link to their Discord community as well. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I remember playing Quake 3 Arena on the unique Padman maps. Maps that made us players feel like we were shrunk down and stuck in Andy's room from Toy Story. Out of the Pad maps came the Pad World mod, and then finally a standalone game, World of Padman. Powered by an extended id Tech 3 engine, World of Padman supports 24 maps, 7 game types, and full bot support, as well as a crazy, unique, and fun comic book art style. Every first Sunday of the month is Pad Day at their community Discord, where they organize games and events. I can't say I know much about Cocaine Diesel other than it looks fun and unique. The main game mode appears to be planned to diffuse like Counter-Strike. I think it's really neat that they've combined that game mode with the Arena FPS. Cocaine Diesel has both Windows and Linux support, and I myself will be jumping in to check out this Counter-Strike Arena FPS hybrid, as I think on paper the concept sounds really cool. So keep an eye on the channel, as I might make a video about it down the road. This free game is in active development, can be found at their website, and they appear to have an active Discord community as well. Links in the video description. So next up, I have 10 Arena FPS games on Steam that you can go hop into right now. And in no particular order, first up we have Warsow/Warfork. I remember playing Warsow back when it was free and open source on the web, and for a long time it was one of the premier free-to-play arena shooters on the internet. Released back in 2012, Warsow is built off an advanced modification of the Quake 2 engine. However, at the end of 2016, the former main developer of Warsow promised an update to the game, and that update never came. The game was forked in 2021 under a new title, Warfork, and is currently available for free on Steam. I have personally played this game for years, and I highly recommend it. Reflex Arena is another Quake 3 arena-like adaptation that came out back in 2014. With a still active competitive scene, statistics tracking, competitive ladders, cosmetic item drops, an in-game map maker, UI editor, bots, and Steam Workshop support, this game has a ton of features, bells, and whistles. The game is also incredibly polished and feels really smooth. However, I will say, as someone who has played Reflex recently, the game is not dead, but it will be difficult to find multiplayer matches without joining their Discord. Also, their dueling community is very hardcore and incredibly skilled. Now is the next game Ratz or Ratz? I'm not quite sure. Regardless, if you're like me and Instagib is your favorite arena FPS game mode, then you're going to want to check this game out. Ratz includes stat tracking, a map editor, Steam Workshop support, as well as all the other classic game modes including freeze tag. Game organization is best to be found at their Discord, link in the description. If you're looking for another interesting Quake 3 arena-like game, check out Doombringer. While still in early access, the multiplayer can be played for free and it's very fleshed out. The game feels somewhat familiar, but still fresh and new. And unlike other titles, I feel the bots in this game actually offer more of a realistic challenge. And of course, like many of the smaller niche communities in this video, active times of play are found on their Discord. This game has a nice little competitive scene as well. Another famous older open source arena FPS game, Alien Arena, has been in development since 2003-2004-ish. With gameplay similar to Quake, Doom, and Unreal Tournament, the game has gone through decades of development and was released on Steam back in 2017 and is still free to play. Not quite as popular as maybe some of the other open source arena FPS staples, Alien Arena still has servers online and players filling them. Stylistically, the game is super unique, and you can find more information out on their Discord or IRC channels if you still happen to use IRC. I mentioned the name of this game briefly in another video, but I did not expand beyond that. Red Eclipse is a free-to-play fork of Cube 2's Sauron, which is one of the older open source arena FPS communities still alive and kicking today. Now I will admit I don't know the activity of the Red Eclipse community, but I have included a link to their Discord down below. While this game may bring some nostalgia to some, I have to admit I've never tried it. That said, I have a friend who plays it regularly, so I wanted to include this community in this video. Kingpin Life of Crime may seem incredibly niche, but their community is active and it organizes through their Discord. And while you might not have ever considered this game as an arena shooter, as you can tell from its gameplay, the game is incredibly fast and twitchy. And with the Kingpin Reloaded remaster around the corner, it might be time to get into this game. Romero's legacy lives on not only with Doom and Quake, but Daikatana as well. That's right, the game Mini Call, one of the worst shooters of all time, has a decently active multiplayer to this day. To get started, you have to install the community patch that fixes all the jank that shipped with the game. Once you've done that, join their Discord and get to playing this classic. Now, I personally have not played it yet, but I hear from sources that I trust that Daikatana multiplayer is actually really fun. The community used to organize through a Steam group, but has recently transferred over to Discord. I will include both links down below. With the boomer shooter genre on the rise over the past several years, from what I've seen, not many of them have shipped with fully fledged multiplayer included. Prodeus is an exception to that rule. This stylistic gory shooter has an active multiplayer community that can be found at the official Prodeus Discord that is over 5,000 members strong. I have also included a multiplayer Steam group in my links that references a competitive scene. However, I'm not sure how active it is at this time. Dusk is another boomer shooter that shipped with multiplayer, lovingly dubbed Duskworld. While I played the game when it first came out, and it was awesome, from what I understand today, the servers are pretty quiet except for organized games in the New Blood Discord, but that community has 99,000 people in it. So if you're looking for a game, go ask around and I'm sure you'll find a match in no time. Now, if you've made it this far in the video, first off, thank you. And secondly, it's time to cover some honorable mentions. These are games that are not quite arena shooters, but are closely enough related that I felt they deserved a mention in this video. Back in the early days of Quake 2 modding, Action Quake 2 was born from a desire to have a game with more realistic Hollywood action movie style weapons. Action Quake 2 is a team deathmatch based game, and many would say it reminds them of Counter-Strike. Rumor is some of the developers even went on to become part of the original Counter-Strike development team. But anyways, Action Quake 2 still has a huge community, and you can find the game for free on Steam under the name AQtion, with a Q replacing the C. Discord in the description. Like several of the games on this list, Wolfenstein Enemy Territory is an open source game born from the id Tech 3 engine. Released back in May of 2003, Wolfenstein ET has been a staple of team-based objective gameplay for 20 years. Games like Brink, Dirty Bomb, Team Fortress 2, and Overwatch all share roots with Wolfenstein ET. The game was released on Steam for free back in April of 2022 and GOG.com back in October of 2022. There are plenty of servers online and a competitive community that's still going strong today. There's also a new mod being developed called ET Legacy, an open source project that aims to fix bugs, security exploits, remove old dependencies, and add useful features as well as modernize the graphics of the game. So I will include links to that as well.
Dynamite planted.
Admittedly, I don't know much about Shotgun Farmers, but I saw some gameplay, heard it has a dedicated player base, and decided it deserved a shout out. Found on Steam, Shotgun Farmers has several classic game modes with cheeky names such as Capture the Pig and Chicken Run. With cosmetics, horde mode, and an active Discord, there are plenty of people playing this title. The most unique feature of the game is that weapons are crops and missed shots plant and grow more weapons. A pretty original idea, and I think that sounds really cool. Another id Tech 3 mod, Urban Terror, was Quake 3 Arena's Action Quake 2 for lack of a better comparison. Originally a total conversion of Quake 3 Arena, I remember playing Urban Terror back when it was released in 2000. Over 20 years later, the Urban Terror community is still going and can now be played without a Quake 3 Arena key. You can find the download on their website. As we continue down the list, we have another Action Quake 2 style game. Starting out as Action Cube in July of 2004, in 2007 Action Cube was renamed to Assault Cube due to a request from the developers of Action Quake 2. Running off the Cube engine with realistic environments, fast arcade gameplay, an in-game map editor, and Hollywood action weapons, it is still in development, albeit slow, with the last update being in 2022. Fortress Forever is a free community-made source mod inspired by the earlier versions of Team Fortress series such as Team Fortress Classic and Quake World Team Fortress. I mentioned a few other Team Fortress communities in my last video, and I wanted to make sure Fortress Forever also received a nod. This free source mod can be found on Steam, and I will have links for you in the description below. The game Fear is most well known for being a single-player psychological horror first-person shooter. What people don't know is that the multiplayer was once incredibly active with fast-paced gameplay and movement. However, back in 2012, the multiplayer was shut down, locking players out. The Fear combat community quickly went to work creating patches to open the game back up, and that community is still going strong today. The last game of this video, Unvanquished, is an open source first-person strategy game shooter pitting humans against aliens. Part horde shooter, part tower defense, players can play for either team in this unique and free game. In development since 2011-2012ish, Unvanquished runs off a heavily modified id Tech 3 engine, and while this game has been around for a while, I can't speak to its activity level. That said, I'm sure you'll find someone willing to play in their Discord. Alright everyone, that's the end of the list for now. If you made it to the end of this list, I really appreciate you for that. As you can see, there are a ton of smaller yet passionate communities still alive and kicking, and for me, I just can't call that dead. If you think I left a critical community off this list, please let me know in the comments below so I can add it to a future video. If you're enjoying this type of content, please help me out by liking this video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and share this video with your arena enthusiast friends. Together, we will keep games like these going for years to come. Thanks again, and as always, I'm Salty Octopus, and I will see you next time. Happy fragging.